Welcome to the F-Tier Nuzlocke, the challenge where I take the worst Pokemon and prove that one man's trash is all that this man gets to use in his Nuzlocke. The tier list that we will be referencing today comes from fellow creator Imported Cheese, who made a pretty in-depth ranking, but actually left out the F-Tier from his list. Well, he had two C-tiers, so I guess on a technicality, we can consider the D-tier viable for our encounter list, especially since it has your usual contenders like Togepi, Dunsparce, Weedle. Anyway, it's a fun list, and I know a lot of you have requested HeartGold SoulSilver, so I'm excited to add it to the series. And hey, I'm producing these videos pretty regularly, and I'd love to be able to make more for you guys. So if you like the content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, all that jazz. It does help a lot more than you think. That being said, Hardcore Nuzlocke rules apply. Let's run with it. Time and time again, we start our journey by picking a starter that we can never use. Even Chikorita is a bit too good for our criteria today. Sorry, Chikorita. But we picked Totodile because water starters make great HM users later when and if they're needed. Professor Elm sends us on a small errand to pick up an egg from Mr. Pokemon and Professor Oak, who also gives us the Pokedex for our trouble. On the way back home, we're jumped by a crazy kid with red hair, our stand-in rival for the region. He's taken off with another of the starters, Chikorita, and challenges us to a battle. I will say, compared to most other rivals, Silver just does not make the cut for even like top 5. You'll have to forgive me if I just skim over his fights later because my man just does not bring a lot to the battling table. Anyway, after reporting that freak to the fashion police like he deserves, we are free to start our adventure and catch some real additions to our team. Starting on Route 30 with a common first catch, Weedle, who we can quickly evolve into Beedrill thanks to the level cap and name her Gingerline. Directly north on Route 31, we can also pick up Kokuliku, which yes, I believe that's how it's pronounced, the Ladybug, and the encounters don't stop there. Funny how Johto is just full of terrible Pokemon, huh? Inside the Dark Cave, which is fittingly named, there is a 5% chance to find Dunsparce, and he's the only viable encounter here, at least on this side of the cave. So here's a fun thing. Dunsparce can only be found at level 4, but both Geodude and Zubat, the other encounters in this cave, can both be found between levels 2 and 4. So if we lead with our level 4 Kokuliku and Repel, we'll skip past every encounter that would have been a level 2 or 3 Geodude or Zubat. Anyway, that's the nerdy way of saying I was able to save so much time and quickly find Anatu the Dunsparce. Loved using this guy in White 2, and this time I am determined to take him all the way to the end, mark my words. Then upon entering Violet City, we have a whole nother round of encounters to get, starting with Mr. Primo, this guy that hangs out in the Pokemon Center. He'll give you one of 3 eggs if you answer his questions correctly, and the answers are specific to your trainer ID. But with the power of the internet, we can search up those answers and score ourselves a Slugma egg. We take the egg with us in a Sprout Tower, which we have to clear out before we can enter the first gym anyway. At the top of the tower, we find our rival getting lectured by a monk, which is a weird enough scenario on its own, and in an effort to avoid a lecture ourselves, we beat the monk in a battle instead. And then we hatch our Slugma inside the tower so that we technically encounter him there, and add Skobeloff to the team. South of Violet City, we can also pick up Phlox the Ekans, and technically we could pick up an unknown from the ruins for our first ever full F-tier team before the first gym, but we can also get a Natu here later, and I fucking love Xatu, so we'll be patient for now. Now we can finally challenge Faulkner for our first gym challenge. He's got a lead Pidgey who quickly falls to 2 rages from a Natu, but the following Pidgeotto has a bit more bulk to it and Roost to boot. So we paralyze it with Clair to put us at the advantage and then slowly take it down with repeated uses of Rage. 1 badge down and we get a call from Elm about that egg he had us retrieve. Now apparently he wants us to carry it around. Goody. So we pick it up from the Pokemart and hatch it right here in Violet City to add Starcily the Togepi to our team. Now we move on and through Union Cave where we pick up Feldgraw the Onyx, who, I'll be totally honest, I expected to have to rely on this run much like I did in Platinum, but in truth, he never left the box. Poor guy. Anyway, on the other side of the cave, there's a small kerfuffle going on at the local well, so we enlist the help of local crazy old man Kurt and jump down the well after him, where we encounter Team Rocket, I kid you not, literally mutilating Slowpoke. It's kind of fucked up. Executive Proton has the unfortunate luck to be on the business end of Gingerline's Fury attack, which quickly takes down his Zubat and Coughing. And that brings Team Rocket's reign over the Slowpoke to an end. In Azalea Town, we run into our rival again, but between Phlox and Skobeloff, his trash team of Ghastly, Bayleaf, and Zubat are wiped out as quick as they can come in. Which means we're skipping up to the next fight against Bugsy. We lead off with Skobeloff, but barely miss the 2-shot Scyther, so we switch out to Gingerline and poison it with Twin Needle while Bugsy heals up with a potion. We can then then bring in Anadu, and we want to set up 2 defense curls so that Scyther can't really do any damage to him. But since Scyther leads with Leer, we need an extra to make up for that defense drop, and then Scyther gets a critical hit with quick attack anyway, and well, we're putting all the chips on Anadu for this one, I suppose. Rollout can start building momentum against Metapod when Bugsy switches it in after Scyther's U-turn. Scyther really should be doing less than 10 damage per hit here, so even though our HP is low, all we really need to do is avoid being crit, and we sweep the fight pretty easily. Our journey continues with a trek through the Ilex Forest, where we can help this kid round up a couple of chickens, get the HM for cut, and move forward to find Persimmon the Paris. That puts us squarely in Goldenrod City. There's a few things here that are worth mentioning, since the Game Corner and Department Store are both located here. They have infinite supplies of multiple awesome TMs like Ice Beam, Rest, Substitute, Drain Punch, Thunderbolt, which you'll see come up now and again. But most importantly, there's an NPC here that will give you the TM for return, and she only appears on Sundays. Try as I might, I could never get this NPC to appear for whatever reason, so you'll just have to take my word for it. Anyway, stocked up out of our mind, we can go straight for the next gym and challenge Whitney, the notorious Miltank user. Personally, never really had an issue with her as a kid, but maybe I'm just built different. We lead with Scarceline, now evolved into Togetic, equipped with Substitute and Drain Punch to power through the gym. Unfortunately, Scarceline was born with the Hustle ability, not Serene Grace, but I guess we can't win them all. At least for here, we can definitely make it work. We start by yawning the Clefairy, then set up Substitute, which is bulky enough to take several hits from Double Slap, and actually get the one shot against Clefairy, which wasn't entirely expected, but I'll take it. When Miltank comes out though, I learned the hard way that Attract is not at all blocked by Substitute, and that stops us from attacking entirely. We get one Drain Punch off the next turn, but it does less than half to the bulky cow, and the next turn we flinch from Stomp, so guess this is where the trouble begins, huh? We do at least put the tank to sleep, which uses up its held Lumberry, and even though it gets healed up with Milk Drink, we get it extremely low and put it to sleep again after a bit of effort. Except now we're out of PP on Drain Punch, so if Whitney decides to heal here, we'll have to switch to plan B. And that's exactly what happens. So we bring in Kokoliku, and wow, his attack stat is pathetic. Drain Punch barely tickles Miltank, but whatever. Even though Rollout looks scary for a second, we can set up Reflect and spam Drain Punch until it eventually falls. 3 badges down and barely a sweat broken. So we're just gonna jump on over to Ecruteak City, and the first thing we're going to do is meet Bill in the Pokemon Center. Then we can creepily follow him back to his home in Goldenrod, where he will give us an Eevee if we promise to leave him alone. Fair trade. I've yet to ever be able to use an Eevee in these runs, but both Umbreon and Flareon are viable options for us to evolve into, so I will absolutely take the opportunity to use my favorite evolution Umbreon, since we already have a fire type. His name is Watchit. Anyway, back in Ecruteak, the Burn Tower looms in the distance, beckoning us inside. It's here we find arguably one of the best Pokemon of the run, Hoos the Coughing. I have always been a wheezing enjoyer, always a believer in the King of Smog, and you will be too by the end of this. For now though, we encounter our rival here as well, and he has the usual suspects on his team. Ghastly falls to Extrasensory, Magnemite to Flamethrower, Zubat to Crunch, and Bayleaf eventually to Poison Sting. I've said it before, but this guy really just doesn't get any harder. The lower floor of the Burn Tower has a couple of weird cats hanging out, so we shoo them away for the good of the people and then make our escape. The other main attraction of this city is the Dance Theater. It's basically home to the Kimono Girls, who will be a tad bit important later, but for now, we just find a Team Rocket grunt harassing a performer, and quite frankly, that's just not cool, man. Let's beat him up, you know, for the good of the people. Gym Leader Morty is awaiting our challenge, and this guy has a few skeletons in his closet and a few ghosts on his team. We lead off with Kokoliku and set up the Substitute and Swords Dance combo. Then we're free to baton pass over to Watchit and completely cleanly one-shot every one of Morty's Pokemon with Payback without even losing our sub. Freest gym fight ever. Also, just curious, why didn't they give this guy a Misdreavus? Whatever. Heading west out of town, Route 38 grants us the common party member Farfetch'd. People still think this guy is bad? I mean, I hope in some way that these videos might change a lot of people's perspective on certain Pokemon. I cannot stress enough how good Farfetch'd is for an in-game playthrough. Happy to have him back on board, this time named Nadier. In Olivine City, we have a fun run-in with Redhead again, and he directs us to find the gym leader at the lighthouse. It is a little weird that they love to hang out there so much. Gym leader Jasmine lets us know that the resident Ampharos is feeling a bit under the weather and asks us to pick up her prescription from Cianwood City. I agree, but only because I have my own very important errand to run there as well. So after fishing ourselves up Falu the Corsola from Route 40, we are able to surf ourselves across the sea to Cianwood, pick up the prescription like the good little drug mule we are, and ignore the health risk that Ampharos is in to challenge the island's gym leader Chuck. We mess around with the Primate for a bit with some failed shenanigans from both Sarceline and Phlox, but eventually just bring out the goat Poos and KO it with a few uses of Flamethrower. Poliwrath does end up putting her to sleep after we get off the first Thunderbolt, but that leaves us free to switch in Kokoliku, set up a Reflecting Substitute, and baton pass out to Persimmon, now fully evolved into a beautiful Parasect. With the sub to block Hypnosis and the Dry Skin ability to render Surf useless, Poliwrath doesn't have a lot of options, and for some reason the AI just doesn't seem to recognize Dry skin very well, so it alternates using Body Slam and Surf, which keeps us at full HP throughout the fight. And that means we can simply spam slash until the tadpole falls. But that's just an aside. Our actual important errand is smashing a couple rocks on the beach until we find and catch Gambage the Shuckle. Gambage? Gamboge? Oh, I like both. An important addition to the team, and largely the reason why Fel de Gras never saw any use. Sorry, Onyx, but you've had your time, and I believe in insect supremacy. With the Cianwood trilogy completed, we decide that the Ampharos is probably fine for a little while longer, so we continue our catching spree by running back to Union Cave, where we can now surf around the back of it and access this new area of the ruins of Alf. Here, we can catch Xanadu the Natu, who I am very excited to use, hopefully. Maybe. We also head over to Route 33, where we totally missed picking up Zephyr the Hoppip. These guys won't see much use now, but I can't pass the chance to add them to the squad. Now we run back to the lighthouse in Olivine City, feed Ampharos some store brand Tylenol, and the gym leader is open to being challenged. It's a pretty simple fight though, and we won't linger on it too long. Lead with the Ladybug, baton pass agility and substitute, bring in the Poos, and sweep the steel types with Flamethrower. Could have done the same thing with Skopoloff too, come to think of it, but I digress. I will point out that due to the freedom of choice with gym leaders here, Jasmine's level cap is actually slightly higher than the next gym we'll be facing. For simplicity's sake, I'm staying under the cap of 34 until both gyms are completed. If you're wondering why my Pokemon might seem a little underleveled, that's why. Clearly, it didn't matter either way. Anyway, now we can backtrack slightly, head east out of Eucatrix City, where we can surf our way into Mahogany Town. But we quickly find that there's some nefarious trouble afoot here as well. At the famous Lake of Rage, we find a sparkly red Gyarados rampaging, and it's up to us to calm him down by crushing him below our mighty boot. A crazy guy with a big cape named Lance notices our battle prowess and recruits us to help thwart Team Rocket's plans in town. We're, not really given a choice in the matter. But first we take a quick surf around the lake and find a few useful items. Most importantly, this pair of choice specs that we will definitely make use of later. So this annoying hideout has a bunch of statues that alert guards, and like fighting them is nothing more than a formality. I mean, we're clearing level 30 and these grunts are all below level 20. Johto's lack of a genuine level curve is insane. Whatever. In the back of the hideout is hiding Giovanni? Just kidding, it's this nerd Patrell. Poos annihilates him without a second thought. We then steal his parrot to open up a voice-controlled lock on another floor, which works for some reason, and there we find a third Rocket executive, Ariana. She's trying to stop us from shutting down the generator that powers their whole evil base of operations, but Lance shows up beside us and we're locked into a 2v2 showdown that these Rocket thugs just have no chance of winning. Watch It and Dragonite, being almost twice the level of their competition, just leave no room for error, and they quickly wipe the floor in this fight. It's not even worth really going over. The generator itself is also locked in by a series of fights, being forced to take out the electrode powering it. I was a little worried at first, given that these things are well known for their ability to explode, but that never happens and these fights are cleared pretty easily as well. Generator down, Rocket ran out of town once again, and the next gym badge is up for grabs after we defeat gym leader Price. He leads off Seal against Gambage. This turns out to be a war of attrition that I could not have possibly anticipated, and Gambage is forced to switch out after running out of PP on Rocket Tomb. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We switch in Poos and Thunderbolt both Seal and Dugong to death thanks to choice specs, then switch in Phlox against Piloswine. He's just in to be a nuisance, stockpile a bit, get off a few mud bombs because I forget that Blizzard just skips the accuracy check during hail, and then switch out to Watch It, who can whittle down the pig with payback while staying at good HP thanks to his bulk. And then Anadu gets some screen time here too, coming in to finish off the Piloswine with just a few uses of rollout. Now apparently Team Rocket has been spotted in Goldenrod City now, so I have to fly over there and drive them out again. They're like rats. Destroy one nest and they just up and make another one somewhere the fuck else. Ridiculous. Taking time away from my adventure just to deal with their bullshit. Whatever. At least this time we get a snazzy disguise that our rival blows almost immediately. I mean, fine. It's not like these grunts pose any kind of threat, and neither does Patrell, disguising himself again at the top of the tower. Poos, now a wheezing, can easily take care of this loser. I will say, very impressed at the levels being pretty close in line this time, and him having a full team of 6 would be super cool if they weren't all coughing. Oh well. Choice Specs Flamethrower takes him out one by one by one by one. Patrell is then kind enough to tell us the whereabouts of the radio station director being held captive underground, and we can go save him. We do briefly get stopped by rival Redhead again, and Poos one-shots his Golbat with Choice Specs Thunderbolt right off the bat. Phlox takes out the rest of his team with Crunch and Mud Bomb. I will admit right now, I know I've been using the move for a while, but I don't know when this guy learned Mud Bomb, why I taught it to him, or why he still has it. But it's good for steal coverage, I suppose. Then we get to solve a really fun door puzzle, fight a few more grunts that are just kind of hanging around down here, and find the director who gives us a key card to access the next floor of the radio tower. We run back to the radio station, use that key card, and lock ourselves into a fight with Proton again. Remember Rotom from the well? Man, feels like so long ago now. Oh, and also his 2 Pokemon get swept by Poos. Again. Now we get a real fight against Ariana. Everyone is here! Poos can one-shot her Arbok with Specs Flamethrower, Murkrow is chipped down by Gambage and then falls to Faloo, who gets his first fight in here, and Vileplume is easily handled by Phlox. Now the real fight is up the elevator, where we find Archer. He's just a sad dork that can't let go of somebody he loves and is willing to do whatever it takes to get his message through to him. Maybe I should call her. His lead Houndour is no match for Poos, who thunderbolts both him and his big brother into oblivion. Watchit comes in to pay back the coughing to death and win us the fight handily. There does appear to be a common theme with the major fights in this game, similar issues to X and Y really. In X and Y though, the problem mostly stemmed from every trainer being nerfed to only have like 3 Pokemon. In HGSS, the low level and overall power keep any Pokemon from being able to stand up as a threat. Oh well. Maybe that will change as we enter Blackthorn City and challenge last gym leader Clair. Gyarados just likes to spam Dragon Rage, so Kokoliku is free to pass a couple Swords Dances and Agilities to Watchit, but honestly not the smartest move on my part, because Umbreon just does not have the chutzpah to sweep through Clair's entire team, even after a +3 attack boost. We do fell the Gyarados, but when Dragonair paralyzes Watchit, we can only stay in long enough to take it out as well, before we're forced to swap against her Kingdra. Poos isn't really built to sweep here like she was before, but we can come in and get some Shadow Balls off to deal some chip damage. Phlox also does not have the stuff to handle the Seahorse, so we swap him out before too much damage is dealt. This is a job for Gambage. Kingdra can't even touch her while its health is slowly drained by Wrap and Rock Tomb. Gambage laughs maniacally as she eats Hydro Pumps and Hyper Beams like they're nothing. Clair's last Dragonair can't fare any better. With Rest, Gambage can stall out as long as necessary for Wrap and Bug Bite to slowly trickle down the dragon's HP. Even when Clair uses a full restore to set us back to the start, the HP drain simply starts all over again. Clearly, Clair is not amused by our strategy and sends us off to the Dragon's Den before she will even consider giving us the gym badge. Apparently, but I need it, is not a good enough argument, so off to the den we go. The old man asks us a couple basic questions, really just to hammer home the theme of Pokemon are friends, not tools, but I just don't have the heart to tell him what kind of challenge I'm doing. Clair barges in just in time to prove that she's a heartless beast who couldn't even pass this simple questionnaire. She is then threatened with the authorities if she doesn't hand over the badge. So we get the badge. And thus concludes the 8 gyms of Johto. Now it's time for just a bit of story cleanup before we can challenge the Elite Four, and that means Elm is going to help shoehorn in the legendary for us to encounter by sending us to go meet the Kimono girls back in Yucatique. They do have to battle us one after another, but they're really not too difficult as they only use 1 evolution each, though we do get Watchit in to prove who's really the best when we can. They then ask us to meet them at the Whirl Islands, where they perform a fun little dance and summon a sea god. It's all very cool. But Lugia is not F tier, so we decide to prove a point by murdering him with Watchit. The Kimono girls stare slack-jawed at their fallen god while we walk away scot-free. I mean, I see no god down here. Except for me. Now we can surf east of New Bark Town and take our first steps into the Kanto region. At least, according to this guy. The Tojo Falls are a bit of an obstacle to get around since they require waterfall and little Faloo cannot learn it, but our starter Totodile is still waiting for his chance in the box, so he gets to come out and help us swim around on our way to Victory Road. Fortunately, all the annoying trainers are outside, and inside Victory Road, we only have to face off against rival McGee once more. Problem is, like so many of his fights before, our level cap is just far too high, and he just doesn't keep up with the game. And I'd feel bad, maybe, but rivals really should be keeping up with the power level no matter how low it is overall. We switch Gamboge in against Sneasel, and he actually ends up switching Magneton in against us. What he doesn't know is that Gamboge is an unkillable machine, and we slowly wrap the Magneton to death. Meganium also can't do any meaningful damage to us and actually helps with the HP drain by confusing itself with Petal Dance. Gamboge claims another victim. Haunter is an easy switch into Watchit, who scores the one-hit KO with Feint Attack. Sneasel unfortunately just doesn't deal enough damage to be a threat once it comes back up, so we are free to stay in and take it out with ease. Golbat is also taken out in just 2 hits, and Kadabra is weak to Dark, so now at the Elite Four, I actually already have a team idea in mind, except this is how I learned the hard way that Xanadu the Xatu does not learn a damaging psychic type move until, get this, level 59. Far and away above our level cap, which means he is not the answer to Koga I was seeking. We settle on Kokoliku, our resident Baton Pass user, as we always should have. Farfetch'd makes a repeat appearance on the Elite Four squad as Nadir. Queen Poos obviously comes along, as does Gamboge, who both mostly carried this run. We also have Zephyr, who is here for one reason, and if you saw our Fire Red run, you can probably guess why. And only because I promised I would, we bring in Anadu over Watchit into the final stretch of the game. Our level cap cap is the same as we used in Fire Red and Platinum, matching the last member of the Elite Four and being under the champion. Full disclaimer, the only fight in this game that I'm worried about is the champion Lance. Everyone else, even in the Elite Four, should be pretty free. I'm sure that won't come to bite me in the ass. Now, as a quick aside, you're probably looking at the time left in this video like, wait, isn't he going to do Kanto and the red fight? And the short answer is no. At least not today. I don't really think I should be doubling the length of this video as is, and this is technically the end of the main game, so it counts for a full run. However, if you are interested in seeing me continue this run and tackle the massive post game, let me know in the comments. Maybe I can make a follow-up video. For now though, it's time for the final challenge. We face off against Psychic user Will, who is more than eager to flex his Xatu on us. Kokoliku sets up Substitute and can baton pass some speed and attack boost to Nadir. From there, Nadir can Night Slash the Xatu and Jinx, fly against the Executor, land a critical hit Night Slash against Slowbro, and one last Night Slash takes out the second Xatu. See? Free! Koga is up next, having earned a promotion since the Kanto days. He's still a mostly poison type specialist, so we show off our prowess with Poos and her choice specs. Flamethrower takes out Ariados, Venomoth, and Fortress. Then we can switch out to Gamboj to force out Koga's healing and slow down the bat with Rock Tomb, chipping away at its HP. Then we can bring Poos back in and eventually hit a Thunderbolt through his double teams and take down the bat. Mux attempts to minimize R for naught, and Poos hits every Thunderbolt, taking down the pile of sludge. Next up is Bruno. We can once again lead with Kokoliku, set up as usual, and baton pass out to the star of the show, Sapphire. Aerial Ace one-shots Hitmontop, Onyx falls to Bullet Seed, Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Machamp are all one-shot by Aerial Ace as well. Bruno just does not have a good matchup against these little plant guys, now does he? The almost dark type user Karen allows herself to get set up on as well, and we baton pass to bring in Nadir for his second sweep of the day. The first slash misses the range, but a second one does not, and Umbreon falls. So does Houndoom, Gengar to Night Slash, Vileplume to fly, and Murkrow to a final slash. Every Elite Four member falls to a sweep, which I do believe is a first, but now it's time for Lance. I have only one strategy. Dunsparce will have his time to shine. We lead with Gamboj, partly to take the Intimidate, partly to lower speed with Rock Tomb, and then switch immediately into an Adu. It is his time. With Yawn and Roost, we should be able to buy ourselves enough turn for our 7 PP of Ancient Power, thanks to the 2 PP ups we found during the run, to score us at least 1 boost thanks to our Serene Grace ability. This is his moment, 20% chance. We can do this. And Anadu actually gets the boost on the very first hit. Now that we outspeed and have a bit more bulk, it makes taking advantage of the Sleeping Serpent that much easier. We continue using the Yawn and Roost combo as needed to spam Ancient Power, scoring a second Omni boost. Now, Lance is cooked. We do try to get a few more hits of it in just to see if we can score the magical third boost, but Gyarados unfortunately falls before that can happen. Oh well. We have double our stats and are off to a great start anyway when his first Dragonite comes in. And yes, I said first. Lance here has 3 Dragonite, each one very different from the last. Fortunately, he starts with the level 50 Dragonite first, which does try to set up Safeguard, but apparently if we make him drowsy first, he'll still fall asleep, so that's cool. We finish off the last of our Ancient Power, but without another boost. That's okay. We can still take our ×2 attack to town and wipe out the defenseless dragon with a stab return. The next Dragonite isn't quite as nice, and it survives a return while paralyzing us with Thunder Wave. The next turn, it just goes for Hyper Beam, so even though we get fully paralyzed, we have the chance to make up the turn. No. Fully paralyzed twice in a row. Very cool. We do thankfully survive a second Hyper Beam and finally KO the second dragon with another return. Lance's final Dragonite comes in and knocks us flat with the Dragon Rush, which forces poor Anadu to flinch. Sadly, there is nothing more I can do. Anadu falls to a second Dragon Rush the next turn. I guess RNG goes both ways, but if we can still win this fight and get into the Hall of Fame, Dunsparce can hold his head high and be proud of the work he put in for us today. Problem is, since the Dragonite we just killed never went for a move other than Thunder Wave and Hyper Beam, we have no way of knowing if this Dragonite knows Thunder or Blizzard, which is the difference between the movesets of his level 49 dragons. Not that we have too much choice in the matter, since Sapphire isn't too strong anywhere else in this fight, but if it is the Thunder Dragonite, then we will be in a much better position. Sapphire comes in, gets up the Leech Seed, and falls to Dragonite's Blizzard. So not only did it have a 50-50 shot to even be the Dragonite with Blizzard in the first place, but it then had to land the 70% accurate Blizzard. Whoop-de-frickin-do. No matter. Now that Leech Seed is set up, we can bring in Gamboj, and Gamboj can do what Gamboj does best. But constant healing every turn is too much for Dragonite to break through, especially with Rest in tow when the damage racks up or paralysis becomes too much. Eventually, between Wrap, Leech Seed, and Rock Tomb damage, it does the beast in. We're far from done with this fight, but with all 3 Dragonite out of commission, we're in a great position to finish up. We leave Gambosian with the intention of sacking it off to the incoming Aerodactyl, just hoping to get a bit of chip damage before then. We are flinched by the first rock slide, but do survive a second on just 3 HP to get off a little bit of damage, but then Gamboge falls unceremoniously the next turn. At least now, Poos is free to come in, easily survive the rock slide, and strike back with a strong Specs boosted Thunderbolt. Sadly, this doesn't KO the Aerodactyl outright, but we do land a lucky Paralyze, which doesn't matter because Lance just goes for the full restore the next turn. One more hit does the trick though. Charizard is Lance's last Pokemon. Poos should be able to take just 1 attack, so we can stay in for a strong Thunderbolt before getting KO'd the next turn. Except Poos hangs on with just 1 HP, doesn't even flinch, and perfectly KOs Lance's last Pokemon, winning the battle, the championship, and the game. Lance has no more Pokemon that can battle. Player defeated, SoulSilver. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed already, you definitely should, because like I said before, I've got a lot more challenge run videos planned that I'm working really hard on, so you definitely don't want to miss out on those. And as a little secret for those of you watching until the very end, if you want to be involved in some upcoming videos, be sure to join the Discord using the link in the description. I have some upcoming ideas that will need your input, and I'll be excited to see them take shape. For now though, if you like this video and want to see more, be sure to check them out in the links coming up on your screen now, and I will catch y'all in the next run. See ya.